Dr. Johnson, can you tell me if continuous economic growth is possible?
Continuous growth is impossible as we all live in a world with finite resources, which means that economic growth is also limited to a certain point. Why are you asking?
President Obama thinks he can kickstart the economy with massive spending. Everyone seems to think that normal growth rate is at least 3% and the American economy has a huge potential for unlimited future growth. But I'm a little worried about the current pace of the United States' accumulation of debt.
You have every reason to be worried. Well, let me tell you this. At a growth rate of 2.5%, an economy would more than double in size every 30 years. A stagnant economy with a $1 GDP at the time of the birth of Jesus 2008 years ago would have a $3.46 trillion in GDP today.
I don't understand. What is 3.46 billion?
It's 3.4 followed by 21 zeros. Such an economy would generate enough money to allow everyone in the world, all 7 billion of us, to spend more than $1 million every second of every day of the year. Furthermore, we could expect to double this level of spending in another 30 years. It is needless to say that such growth is simply not possible.
I still don't get it. Why not?
Because all economic value is derived from either nature or society, and both are finite resources. We humans are still as dependent on the earth and on each other for our sustenance and survival as when we were all hunters and gatherers. Everything that is of any use to us, and thus of any economic value, requires energy. Our houses, clothes, food, cars, all require energy to make and energy to use. Even human usefulness, working, thinking, creating, requires energy. In addition, humans are not born as productive individuals. They must be nurtured, civilized, educated, and socialized before they can produce things of economic value, all of which requires energy. The economy can enhance the economic value derived from natural and human resources, but is incapable of creating energy and thus is incapable of creating new economic value.
That sounds very complicated. Can you provide some more explanation?
Certainly. As you probably know, according to the most fundamental laws of physics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. However, each time energy is used or reused, some of its usefulness, thus some of its economic value, is lost. The only source of new economic value is solar energy. Some things of nature, mainly green plants, are capable of capturing and storing solar energy. Humans are capable of capturing solar energy. They do it with windmills, dams, and photovoltaic cells. The economy is capable of facilitating our use of energy, but is incapable of capturing solar energy. It must rely on nature or humans for its value.
So, how does all that relate to the United States?
The economic growth rates experienced by the United States, particularly in the past 60 years, quite simply are not sustainable. All the growth following the Industrial Revolution was achieved by exploitation of natural and human resources. And now we are doing the same with the rest of the world by taking advantage of globalization. However, now we have competitors that compete with us for natural resources and human capital, and everyone's mantra is the same as ours, which is to keep increasing consumption in order to continue to increase the growth rate of their respective GDPs. In the meantime, we were witnessing the depletion of resources, and we were seeing a rise in the number of various ecological problems associated with human activity.
Are you saying it is too late to do anything to fix that?
Not necessarily. We still have time to fix this, but if we don't, then the nature itself will fix it. You see, the economic growth of the industrial era has been based on cheap and easily accessible energy, first old growth forests, then surface coal, and for most of the past century, relatively shallow deposits of oil. All of the easy sources of fossil energy are gone. All alternative sources of energy, nuclear, wind, water, and photovoltaic, will be more costly to generate and more difficult to use. Nevertheless, the government should focus on accelerating the process of switching to those renewable sources.
What do you propose? Can we do anything about it?
It is difficult to say. The problem is that it would be very hard to implement the necessary changes, as profit maximization and economic growth are at the heart of the present-day capitalist system. Just imagine, instead of stimulating consumer consumption, the governments would need to discourage consumption and press for improved quality of goods instead, to make them environmentally friendly with longer useful lives. And that's against business. And as you know, this country is run by corporations.
So, do we just sit and wait?
Well, that's what everyone seems to be doing now. But inaction will likely lead to a huge shock, quite possibly to the collapse of the world economy. We could already be in the actual process of the collapse now. We have first signs: the recent financial crisis, the debt crisis in Europe. Continual growth is a fallacy. The US and the world economies are not only suffering from a lack of confidence but also a lack of sustainability. The massive bailouts that we are witnessing today in the EU are forming another bubble that will burst with devastating consequences for all.
So, what is gonna happen next? Based on what you have just said, the world is headed towards some sort of a disaster.
As I said, the economic growth fueled by debt is not a solution. It will only make the situation worse by making the collapse more painful. I think we might see a few more bubbles soon, or even a couple of foreign wars engineered by the government to delay the crisis, but there is a high likelihood that the economic collapse may occur in the not-so-distant future, which may then trigger a series of regional wars or even one major world war. In the best-case scenario, we may find ourselves in a permanent state of stagnation or slow decline. Thus, unless the world governments act now.
That's enough, Dr. Johnson. I have to go now. Thanks for your help.